Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our February meeting. Tonight we have our speaker, Aileen Rohr. Here she is, over here. I'll tell you a little bit about her. Aileen is a lifelong Hudson Valley resident, having attended FDR High School in Hyde Park and SUNY New Paltz. Aileen and her husband, Michael, are the proud parents of 3 young adult daughters and are owners of a family business managing and owning smaller, multiple-dwelling rental buildings. Aileen's mother's family, the Rappliers, were among the first settlers of New York State. Aileen's interest in local government. Aileen was chairperson of the Hyde Park River Access Committee, a member of the Hyde Park Economic Development Committee, Hyde Park Zoning Board of Appeals, Hyde Park Planning Board, and chairperson of the Hyde Park Visual Environment Committee prior to election as Hyde Park Town Supervisor in November of 2011. Aileen and her colleagues on the Hyde Park Town Board have run successfully as Team Hyde Park for 4 elections, providing a consistent and stable leadership for their beloved community. Team Hyde Park began their tenure in local government with the precept of leading through finding the common ground. For Hyde Park, the common ground is revitalizing our aging commercial corridors to meet the needs of the 21st century and provide stable, effective, responsible, transparent financial leadership. Aileen, along with Emily Svensson, the Hyde Park Downtown Initiative Coordinator, have successfully developed an economic development/community revitalization program dubbed the Hyde Park Downtown Initiative. The initiative focuses on the appropriate redevelopment of the traditional commercial center of Hyde Park through the introduction of much-needed infrastructure, including pedestrian improvements and wastewater treatment, as well as zoning updates for the area. An update on the initiative will be presented this evening. Please help me welcome Aileen Rohr.
The speaker isn't working.
Here you go.
Hi, Patsy. Thank you so much. Hi, good to see you here. Hi. Great. Well, good evening, everyone, and good to see everybody here. Good turnout. Which one do you want? This one?
The bio that I read of you.
Okay. I liked it. Thank you.
I didn't finish the second page.
Oh, sorry, and I kind of
There was a
preempted
little bit
you.
more, but
Oh, sorry.
Anyway, Aileen Rohr.
Thanks, Patsy. Good evening, everyone. Wonderful to be here and see you all. We are what I like to refer to as one of the biggest small towns in America. Really, I love Hyde Park for that because even though we're 22,000 people, which a lot of people are very surprised about our population, it really feels like a small town. And I just had so much fun talking with the Veiths here on my way in and just kind of reminiscing about, the Hyde Park that used to be, that where many of us grew up in. And it was a great place to grow up, really fun, and I'm sorry I'm not going to be here next month when the Veiths talk, but I'm looking forward to Herb recording it, because I know it's going to be really, really a fun and interesting talk. So, yeah, thanks for that introduction, Patsy. We have a lot going on in Hyde Park, and as always, a lot to be grateful for. I don't need to remind you, speaking to the choir, obviously, about all our historical and natural assets that we have here. We're really the center of tourism for Dutchess County, and yet we often feel that we haven't really been able to capitalize on those assets. And so, I'll just, as Patsy mentioned, we had a very extensive meeting about this last night at the Hyde Park Town Board, and it was basically the Hyde Park Downtown Initiative, and I'll just get into that in a minute, but, and I'll just kind of give you the history of that, but, a couple things I just wanted to mention first, before I really get into the meat and potatoes of the Hyde Park Downtown Initiative is just to give a little bit of an update on other things that we're working on. And, one of the primary functions of your town board is financial. You guys pay a lot of taxes. 78% go to the schools, and the remainder is split between the town, the county, and special districts. So we take that responsibility very seriously because that is actually what we are charged with from New York State. And it is vitally important to me and to everyone on the town board that we manage those dollars efficiently, effectively, and transparently. So we've had a really good run. We've been in office, as Patsy mentioned, since 2012. And I was just thinking about that the other day, how beneficial it is to have had all these years with a stable and reliable staff. I know we have Joanne here, she's an amazing asset for our town. And if anybody wants to know anything about the last, 27 years? The last 30 years? Woohoo! In town government, we all go to Joanne. So, why did this happen? Or when was that? Or this? And she knows it all. So, but really, for us, because we've been here this number of years, we have that historical knowledge, and it enables us to make good decisions. And that's been verified by, we've had independent audits every year, and they've all come back that we have very good financial practices, and that we have done what the Office of the State Comptroller recommends in terms of creating funds for your money, so that they're what we call restricted funds within our fund balance. So if we have a major snow event, or we have what they call uncompensated absences for people that leave town hall, they actually get a payout of the monies that they deserve from their sick time and that type of thing. So we have special funds for that, and also special funds for our capital projects. So those are all monies that can't be touched except by resolution, and that protects you, the taxpayers, into the future. So, it's a big part of our job, and it's satisfying to know that we have had that verified, not just by independent audits, but we also just had a recent audit by the Office of the State Comptroller, and they were in town hall for, was it a year, Joanne? About, I think, even a little over a year, but, and the only recommendation they could make was that we should use paper, instead of paper copies for our timesheets, that we should use electronic copies. So very proud of that, and kudos to Joanne and the whole comptroller staff. So, so again, that's like the biggest job. That's what we take seriously, and that's what enables us to keep the tax rate stable. We've been under 2%, and that's not going to go anywhere in the near future. I think that's going to become a permanent New York State law, but that's not really the exciting stuff. The exciting stuff for me and Dave Ray is here too, and I'll introduce the new town board member in a little bit. But the exciting stuff for us is creating change in our town. You know, we all love our towns so much, and we love our neighborhoods. They're great, and our friends, and our neighbors, and our institutions, and our churches, and our volunteer committees like this. But yet, we've all pined for a more vibrant commercial area, a place that we can gather as a community and visit restaurants and have shops and maybe public gathering spots outside, and have a chat with your neighbor and shop in places that give us the type of goods that we want, and visit our doctors and our attorneys and that type of thing, and maybe yes also to provide a different dimension for housing, because many of us we're aging, and we would love to stay in Hyde Park. And my mom's 95. She lives across the street from me, and God bless her. She's a wonderful lady. Still bakes bread and brings me food and worries about me. So how lucky am I? But yet, we know that it would be nice if at some point we could move her into a senior center or senior housing, and also our demographics are changing just in the country in general. We are aging, and we're seeing that we have much smaller families, and they're typically often. I was asking my husband the other day, can one person be a family? And I don't. He looked it up and he said he didn't think so, but I'm still wondering. We have a lot of people that have chosen to live independent lives, and so if we can have housing in our center, good quality housing that provides these options, that's a win-win for all of us, because that also feeds our commercial center, which is what we're looking for too. We need people in our center. I see so many people here that have businesses, or they are a wonderful artist collective, and a lot of it is people. And so, we are 22,000, but we're all kind of spread out through these 33 square miles of town. And so, what we want to see is a vibrant commercial downtown. I think that is something that we all knew for quite some time, but we hadn't really put our finger on that. We knew that we didn't like vacant buildings. We knew that we didn't like not having any shops. We knew that we wanted more restaurants, but it really wasn't quite, we didn't quite capture it. So, that is really why in 2014, Emily Svensson, the former deputy supervisor and tremendous asset for our town, we wrote a bunch of different grants, and Emily wrote one for NYSERDA, through the New York State Energy blah 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 for cleaner, greener communities. And with that money, we were able to actually put a plan together, and we formed what we called a steering committee, a group of people from a variety of places, to devise a plan that would revitalize this aging, deteriorated town center that we have. And basically, we knew what we wanted from the outset. We wanted a vibrant, walkable area characterized by service and retail establishments, restaurants, cafes, and a variety of housing choices. And so this group, this grant that we had, resulted in a great and engaging public process. And I know many of you actually attended some of the meetings that we had at Town Hall. We had actually over 100 people come into Town Hall, and we had a whole lot of different places they could provide their thoughts on what they wanted to see, and what they hoped for in their town. We took all that data, we compiled it into a planning document, and then we also did what a market analysis, and that was an economist that was retained, paid for through this grant, who examined the data for Hyde Park and really took a look at what are the things that we're lacking and that would be supported by our overall economy. And so those elements were putting into this planning and engineering document that was then adopted by the town. And as part of that, we also did a sewer study. which getting back to that old thing, of how are we going to get this vibrancy? So they all of these things pointed in the same direction, and we all agreed that these are the things we want, and that was actually the easy part, knowing what we wanted. But the hard part is how to get there. So, and it's a little bit more complicated than that. So it really, what our answer to it was coined the Hyde Park Downtown Initiative. And it was a series of actions that town can take to revitalize this business district. So it's basically a three-pronged approach to economic development and to enhancing our community character. And it's a way to leverage our historic and natural assets, to grow our tax base, provide housing to meet today's needs, improve our curb appeal, and by the way of all that, improving our property values. And so we established these three parallel tracks to pursue under the Downtown Initiative. And they were basically the following three. So we have our pedestrian element to this, and I think people have observed over the last number of years that we have created a number of sidewalks. We created one on Market Street. That was our first. That was paid for with community development block grant monies, and the idea there was to connect the apartments to 9G, where there were some commercial areas, so people could walk safely in that area and connect, get their daily needs met, and just it was a place where people walked all the time, but in a very unsafe way. So then we created another sidewalk. Dave Ray and I knocked on all the doors in the Farm Lane neighborhood to do an income study so that we could gain, again, community development block grant monies to build a sidewalk across from Stop and Shop to connect that neighborhood with Stop and Shop, because we did have a number of people who expressed their concern that they couldn't cross 9 safely. So that was a project that, in addition to providing that safe passage, really did create a major visual improvement to the gateway of our town. So that was the second one. Then in 2017, we completed what we fondly refer to as our TAP project, which was sidewalks along Route 9 that went from essentially the drive-in up to Park Plaza, and that was a federally funded project that was a number of years in the making, and we were very pleased with the results. So the idea really is to create a sense of place in Hyde Park, let people know that you're in a downtown, in addition to these other factors of providing a safe place to walk. But it is all about providing those cues that, hey, you know what, you are entering a town, slow your car down, there's going to be places to shop, and please take mind of that. So that project, we completed in 2017. We added the street trees, the green space, and of course the sidewalks. And one of the nicest features of that project really was the stone wall that we were able to build in front of the Hyde Park Antique Center. And if people remember how unattractive that was, it was like an old guardrail falling into the pond. And I'm very proud that we were able to get $150,000 out of DOT for that by stamping our feet and basically having a meltdown, and they did cough up that extra money. So we were really pleased about that. And so our next phase will go where that phase left off at the south end of Park Plaza and go up to just a little bit north of the firehouse. And so the intent of that phase is really to have a little bit broader sidewalk, also with the green space on the outside. The sidewalks will go directly up to a couple of the buildings to, again, kind of create that downtown feel that you'll see in other communities where the sidewalks are right up to the buildings. So that we're in the design phase and look forward to constructing that in 2020. But this summer, as part of the first phase of our TAP project, we will be adding pedestrian level lighting from basically Calmer Place up to Park Plaza, and that is designed again to enhance the sense of place. So that was all. That grant was federally funded. That came through the state, but then we were fortunate enough to receive another award through our Assemblywoman Dee Dee Barrett that covers not just, it covers the match money that's required for the federal money, as well as the lighting, the pedestrian lighting. So I'm excited to see that go in, and I hope you bid on that, Don. All right, so so that's where we are really on the pedestrian portion, and it is, again, it's part of this three-pronged initiative to create this more vibrant Hyde Park. So then last night, we unveiled the new town core zoning district. Again, that is, it's new zoning for the area around the Pine Woods intersection. It goes really a little bit, it goes from Van Dam up to Harvey, where it intersects with the new Crossroads Core Zoning District. So basically, it's a pretty complicated document, and what we've done in it is go from your traditional, what they call Euclidean zoning, where you have uses that are defined, where areas are defined by what uses are allowed, but instead this zoning is what they call form-based code, which is really more about what the building looks like and how it relates to the street, rather than about the use. So basically, it's a new way of approaching zoning that is designed to provide very specific details to those who are making applications, as well as to de-emphasize what a property is used for, and instead to make it more about how it relates to the street. And so the idea is also that, you know, in prior times, it used to be that people wanted to segregate their uses. They really wanted to, you know, have only commercial here and only, you know, multifamily here and only single family here. But that's really become rather obsolete. That what we're finding, especially for the younger generation, is they want to see mixed use. They want to live above a store they know, where then they can go get their coffee in the morning, or maybe that they're going to be working down in the cafe doing their internet stuff or whatever. And or, you know, it's a different way of it's a different lifestyle. So so this zoning is reflective of that, and we had a steering committee that included someone from the County Department of Planning, as well as the Planning Board and the Town Board, and a professional planner who put together this pretty cool document. So last night we had a presentation by our planner, and that zoning is going to go through the local law process, and people will be invited to speak on it. The public will be invited to give us their feedback. And again, it's going to allow a number of, it's going to reduce the setbacks that are required often on buildings. It's going to have a greater density than other parts of the town, and it's going to have this mixed use. It's going to allow commercial on the first floor and residential above, or perhaps in the back. So it's designed to be flexible. So that was the second part we recognized that we would have to do to kind of revitalize this town center. And yet we still had to provide within that zoning some sort of fail-safe in the event that we are not able to get the third element of our work, which is sewer. So, you know, the zoning, we have very descriptive requirements for the architecture, for the style, yet they can be relieved in the event we are not able to obtain this sewer, which will allow this dense development. So we have provided for that option, but I'm pretty confident we're gonna be able to nail this next section, which is the commercial sewer district. So, you know, this is a very intense and ongoing process. We've been working on it since 2014, even actually before that. But we have compiled a plan, the detailed plan, engineering plan for what the infrastructure will be, what kind of plant it will be, where it will be located, which is actually at Pinewoods Park is the, at this point in time, after we've looked at a lot of different options, we've identified the north end of Pinewoods Park as the location for the treatment plant, which we can go into a little bit greater detail at some point on that, but this is all new technology. It would be contained in a building. It has been shown to not emit odors. The buildings are attractive, and the treated wastewater that comes out is very high quality. So that's one element that we had to work out. We've just recently worked out the boundaries of the district. We've explored a whole bunch of different options, and so at this time we are looking basically from from the drive-in up to Vanderbilt will be this commercial sewer district. It's 108 properties, and so the engineering report has now morphed into another steering committee that we formed, and we are designing the map plan and report, which will provide the infrastructure. It will also provide to each property owner what their projected cost is for this improvement. And so that's kind of an arduous process in terms of determining all these variables and making sure that they're absolutely certain. So we have had 3 public meetings with the property owners. We've sent each of them a letter detailing their cost, and at this point in time we're setting up meetings and talking with people and getting feedback on the Route 9 Central Sewer District project. But I kind of jumped ahead a little bit, but if we really hone in on what that is going to do for us and why we need it, it's really pretty apparent why we need it. If you compare our town center to other municipalities that have sewer, say Rhinebeck, or the village of Fishkill, or village of Wappinger, or Millbrook, that there's an obvious difference that all our properties are sprawled out because you need a very large piece of property to build a septic. And that is just getting more and more stringent. The requirements by the Department of Health are very rigid and becoming even more rigid. So uses that were in existence 30, 40 years ago, you're not able to obtain approvals for those today. The Health Department has a policy that if a property is vacant for more than a year, then their approvals for sewer or for their septic use disappear, and the applicant has to provide all new applications. So that is really a huge limitation for our town. Buildings like the Mel Carney building the Rohr building that once was full of doctor's offices, they're not able to use a lot of that space because it's been vacant for more than a year. So I think that's the essence of why we don't have that density, why we've never had that density. And I think it's also the essence of why we need to fix this. And of course there are other benefits besides the shopping and dining options that we seek. And if some people might ask, well, what if I don't live in that part of town? How will that help me? And the answer to that really is that, as we build our commercial tax base, that reduces the burden on residential properties because we have higher and better uses of properties that are really not paying a tremendous amount despite their wonderful locations. And when that happens, that can reduce the burden on residential. And, not for nothing, but, in Hyde Park, we have a lot of properties off the tax rolls, which really add an additional burden to all of us. The residents the residential owners. So, for that reason, amongst all these others, there's benefit to the people who aren't actually living right in that area. And, I think the other aspect is that it will increase our property values. If any of us compare our home values to those in Rhinebeck per se, and it's kind of unfortunate we're their next door neighbor because we always get compared. And not that we don't like to go there to eat, but we love Hyde Park. So, but again, if you compare our property values to Rhinebeck or Red Hook or Clinton, we're not keeping pace, and that's partially because we don't have this really beautiful commercial center that people want. So, I think for all those reasons, it really makes so much sense for us, to invest in our community. And we've done it before, right? We've done it with the police court facility, and how wonderful that is for our town that we have this beautiful facility instead of a shabby place where our police, it was just not fit for their occupancy. And we've done it at the schools, and we built this beautiful track, and so investment is it's an entity that you don't expect immediate return, or you expect some return, but it's really for the future, and that's what the sewer is about. However, I'm a property owner, and that's what my husband and I do for a living, and so that bottom line is infinitely important, right? And that's the hard part. So, the mechanics of why we need the sewer, how we're going about it, I laid that out, but here's what the facts are in terms of the cost. So it's, at this point, it's an $18 million projected project. We have gathered $5.3 million in grants and commitments. $1.25 million was contributed by Belfield, the hotel that is being built down across from the Culinary. We have $2 million that we obtained through Senator Sue Serino through a member item. We applied to the Regional Economic Development Council and were awarded $1.5 million from them for our sewer, as well as the county has provided $575,000. So, we're starting off with a pretty good base, $5.3 million for the $18 million project. That leaves approximately $13 million that will need to be borrowed by just those people who will benefit by the sewer. That's the way New York State organizes special districts. So that $13 million will be borrowed over a 30-year period by those 108 properties and paid back in an annual debt service payment. And in addition to that, there will be a charge, just like in your water bills, or if you live in one of the developments that has sewer, that you will be charged what they call operation and maintenance for that, based on your water usage. So, you add those two items up, and then you have that projected cost for your property. So it's an expensive endeavor. We know it's a challenge for many people, and I've talked to a bunch of different people. We have a number of people that are concerned about how they're going to pay for that. And then we have some people that are extremely excited about the prospect that they will now be able to build to a second and a third story on their property, that they'll be able to build housing in the back. So at this point, we're just in the preliminary phases of discussing it with each property owner, looking for feedback, and we're still looking for money. Tomorrow I'm meeting with Senator Schumer's regional director, and again, we're asking for more money, because if we could bring that borrowing down, the project will have much greater chance of succeeding and passing and be less of a burden. So just to finish up on that, we have a timeline. The town passes we adopt what's called the map plan and report. That is a town board action. We have public comment. Then what we will have in June or so, we're hoping, assuming that we get all these ducks in a row, a referendum that where those property owners that benefit will be able to vote. And so we will need to obtain 51% of those voters to approve the project. They will need to have proof of who they are, because a lot of the properties are owned corporately and different partners. So there's a lot of mechanisms to assure that we have a very valid vote. And so, hey, if it passes, then we go forward. We start the long process of getting it designed and awarding bids, and I'm not going with the other direction, okay? That's what we're gonna do when it passes. So that's really been the majority of the time. If we're not managing the money, that's what we're working on. And I know that people probably have a few questions about what's going on in town, and I'll just kind of hit on a couple and then just ask for questions, turn it over if that's how you'd like to do it. Patsy, is that okay?
I don't know what that other microphone is, but I think that
Okay.
better give one of the microphones to the person that has the question.
Yes.
That's a great idea, thank you,
I'll
yep.
walk around with my-
Okay, so, but, people may want to know what's going on across from the culinary. If you haven't been able to read about it, it is the Inn at Belfield, which is the first phase of that development. It's a 330 acre parcel with a very ambitious concept plan that has been adopted, but the hotel is the only phase that has actually been approved by the planning board, and they're going forward very rapidly. They're doing all the pre-construction work right now. And that's going to be a Marriott under the Marriott flag. And so that's going to be great for our town. I think we need a place for tourists to stay. That's what we've heard. And we know that the National Park Service and the Culinary and Marist have looked for places to hold conferences. So that's going to be very good for our town and for our tax base. And the Amish market, we're seeing that redeveloped. We have the most beautiful mavis in all of the country, I am sure. I have no doubt. And it really is really nice. And the property owners are the Cosmos Group, and they're really wonderful to deal with. They're putting a lot of money into that property. The new building that's going up right now is going to house Emergency One, who wanted to be right on Route 9, and in fact, they're right on Route 9, right on Route 9. And that space that they're vacating, I'm not sure what's going in there, but they have someone who's very eager to move in. So that's the update on that property. I met with the property owner yesterday, and though they're very eager to redevelop the former Grand Union building, they really have used up all their available septic at this point. So in order to do that, they would really need to go through this very arduous process with the Department of Health to obtain and build a new septic. So that's unfortunate. I know we're all disappointed about seeing all these beautiful buildings around it, and then the Grand Union. But they're doing what they can. They're working very hard to attract someone that would justify that expense. So those are the two big projects that we have in the works. We have a couple of residential projects in the works. One, the Enclave out on Cream Street, if anyone is familiar with that, and that's being redeveloped into two-family homes on a single lot. And that's been a really long process also. That was a property that had been partially developed and then was basically abandoned. So that's being rekindled. And we also have the Jeffrey Groves Estates, which is on North Cross Road, which is going to be townhomes. So that's it for the residential at this point in time. So at this point, I'd like to open it up to any questions. Okay, sure.
Could you just comment upon the status of that eyesore that sits right across from Town Hall and the classic post office, right at the four corners? that I understand was owned by one of the founding families of the town, the Stoutenbergs, who came over on the second Mayflower. And I mean, that thing is
And
an
then they built
eyesore.
that, right?
I mean, what are we doing? Are we foreclosing on it? It would be a great place for a park, you know?
Yeah, well, so that's a great question. I think, every day I don't look out my window at it because I don't have one in my office, but, when I'm going in, I look out and I'm like, that nightmare. It's still there, yeah. So the way it works is that property owner, you're right, it's one of the founding families, the Stoutenbergs, Brooke Stoutenberg, is on the market. He had it on the market for $4 million. I've heard he's dropped it to $2 million. Apparently, he doesn't have any takers. I don't think that anyone wants to spend $2 million for a property that without sewer can hardly be used. But, the town, if you mentioned foreclosure, that happens when a bank is owed money, right? A bank can go in and foreclose if they're owed money and you don't pay. They do pay their taxes. And so it's unfortunate in that instance that they do. But then you could, like you say, if someone does not pay their taxes in 3 years, the county forecloses on the property. They take the property back in rem, but they are current on their taxes. So it is a nightmare. It's a shame. It changes the entire character of the town. It really does. I could not agree more.
One more question. Is the soil contaminated by oil and gas?
We researched that, and there was no paperwork that showed that. We asked to research the DEC records, and so there's nothing in the record that shows that. That doesn't mean it didn't exist. It just means that no one has investigated it. You are not able to, we don't have the right to go onto that property and investigate that. If someone were to purchase it or enter into a purchase agreement, I'm sure they would want to have that in their contract.
One quick one more.
Peter, microphone, please.
Yeah, you use the microphone? Do we have it, Barbara? Yeah.
One quick one.
It wasn't. Yeah.
It would make a great Aileen Rohr park there.
I agree.
With gazebos and swings for the kids,
Well-
and picnic tables and a bubbler.
So you're suggesting that we should take it by eminent domain?
I mean,
Yeah. That there is a process the towns.
A great place for it.
That towns can use to take properties eminent domain, but I think that, that is such a prominent commercial location, but I agree, we're all tired of it. What can we do? Can we write a letter to Brooke Stoutenberg? Can we beg him to please lower the price, sell it reasonably? I mean, it's his. I like it. You would think creatively, but so yes.
Across from the CIA, that seems like a tremendously deep hole that they've dug for the foundation. What is that going to be, an underground garage or something? Or?
No, there's no underground garage plan there. Do you mean where the sycamore tree is, or you mean further south where they're excavating for the foundation?
Where they're excavating for the hotel itself.
Yeah, no, it's not underground, but that's the foundation for the hotel. But if you, further north by the sycamore tree, that's where their centralized sewer is going to be, in that location.
All right, before Barbara takes the microphone from me, when you do your zoning behind the old Grand Union, and at the end of Van Dam.
Yes.
There was a big controversy from those people at Van Dam because the 25-foot setback for commercial development had been eliminated from the code that was rewritten about 15 years ago.
The 25-foot setback from commercial to residential?
No,
to?
when you're on the edge of a commercial zone, there used to be a 25-foot setback. And that got eliminated for certain properties. And the people on the end of Van Dam were
We're
were
concerned.
very upset. They
Well,
wanted
I
to see that
can't
25
speak to that
foot.
exactly because that's more of a planning board endeavor. I don't know about the 25-foot.
Yeah.
I don't know about that being eliminated. I really would have to investigate that. But I do know that people on Van Dam were concerned about that. In fact, someone contacted me and asked if there was a plan to connect that commercial space with Van Dam. And not at this time. There's no planning board application that uses that as a secondary means of access. But I'm not 100% certain. Herb, do you? About that. Oh, I thought Herb would know. Come on, Herb, let me down. So, yes,
Aileen, I don't know if you can deal with federal, but the drop box at the post office is missing. It's been removed.
the what? What, Mrs.
The
Condesar?
drop box for the mail in the parking lot.
Oh, really?
Yes. It's been gone for 10 days.
Oh,
And I was wondering if you had any clout to restore
well,
that.
Marilyn has the answer.
Yes, I was disturbed about that too, because it's been so convenient to just swing through and drop off mail and not to have to get out of the vehicle. So after about a week or so, I went in and I asked, and I was informed that the district had it removed. The district is White Plains, had nothing to do with the local post office. But apparently, because of the snorkel, people were fishing down through there and stealing mail. And because it's set back from the road, and it can't be seen from the road, it's just too dangerous to have mail stolen there. And so they have no plans to put it back. And I, with you, am very disturbed about that, but at this point, what else can they do? But that's the deal. They're not going to replace it. So once again, a couple of rotten people ruin it for the rest of us. But that's the way of the world.
Thanks, Marilyn. Mrs. Condesar, did you hear that? Did you? Yeah. Okay. Well,
It's also a dangerous situation. Where it is now, because they have two of those boxes side by side in front of the post office, and you have to pull your car up and put your flashers on and get out and put your mail in and then get back. The curb is higher than the sidewalk is.
Yeah.
So somebody's going to go take a tumble.
We should write a formal,
Yeah.
I could write a letter.
That would be good.
Yeah, I could definitely.
All right, thank you.
I don't really, you guys know a lot more than I do. So, yes, hi.
Hi, Aileen.
Hey, how are you?
Good, good. First, thank you for a long and great persistent job.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate
Could you
that,
speak
David.
for a minute about the sake brewery?
Sure, yeah. So that is right. That's another big project. Forgot about that one. Thank you for reminding me. So, I would say 2018 or 2017, we passed a craft brewery and distillery law, which enabled smaller breweries to be developed here in Hyde Park. And a year or so later, we had an application from the Asahi Shuzo Company and for a craft sake brewery and manufacturer right there at the former Stop and Shop. And we have a member of our planning board here, and she's been working on that, and so they've been very diligent about applying to the town. They have a beautiful application. It's a gorgeous building. It would employ, I think, 28 people. Is that right, Ann? And it's about a $28 million project, I think, is what they're planning on investing. And so, do they have site? They have site plan approval. They do. Yep, so it's the manufacturing, it's this tasting room. They're going to have all new landscaping in the front with cherry trees. They're going to build a rice polishing building that's going to have the Japanese architecture. Their architect is world renowned. He developed the embassy in Tokyo. They're out of Connecticut somewhere, but highly professional group of people. And so they have site plan approval. However, they have a lot of conditions that they have to meet on that site plan, and one of those is to get Department of Health approval as well as DEC approval for their discharge, for their septic, and they have their own little package plant that they're planning on using. There is a stream in the back, and so I think they are working on obtaining those approvals. So, just as a generality, what happens is if someone applies to the planning board and the planning board works through their application, they give them site plan approval, and then there are often conditions that they have to meet, which are obtaining approvals from the outside agencies. So that's where they are right now. Is that correct, Ann? Yeah, Ann?
They can start the interior.
So they're at the...
What are we hoping for? I noticed no work has begun. What are we hoping for? What are we hoping for time-wise?
I think they were unrealistic and hoped that they'd have those approvals from the Department of Health this year. But I would say next year. I would say a year from now. So, they are not going to be in their sewer district. We've encouraged them to reach out to Belfield to connect to Belfield sewer. Belfield made a $1.25 million contribution to our sewer district, but to connect all the way down to Belfield involves a lot of collection system that no one would be paying into because the National Park does not have to pay for the capital costs. They don't have to pay taxes, so that added to the cost of going that far south. So Belfield is building their own. The sake manufacturer has been encouraged to connect with them. I don't know whether that's all going to work out. That's not really within our domain, but it seems like it would make sense. So, hey, Richard.
I understand that the New York State law limits who can be assessed for the sewer district. It's a onerous level of commitment to me for those 108 owners. And again, to me, there is nothing more important for the development of Hyde Park than such a sewer system. We all benefit. Those 22,000 people that you mentioned are all participants in the benefits. And I wonder why we cannot find some mechanism whereby the town uses some of its discretional funds, special assessment, some kind of mechanism to lessen the burden on that group or to pick up the interest costs.
Yeah, we get that question a lot, and it's one of the what ifs, what about? But the state law doesn't allow for that. Any special district is designed so that only those people who benefit, whose property values are improved by it, or who are able to generate more money, or somehow it addresses one of their needs. That's the way the state law is written. I think another way to look at it too is that the contribution that the people are making is really coming through your tax dollars, because we are getting $3.5 million from New York State. They are, it's not ours per se, but it is, New York State tax dollars that are being contributed. I mean, it's kind of an artificial way of looking at it, but, it is bringing down the cost substantially, this $3.5 million from New York State. That is really defraying some of the costs that the property owners would be paying. But, I think it's just partly how representation and democracy works, that if people benefit by in an abstract way of looking at it, that if you have to pay a tax, then you should have a vote in that matter. And that's the abstract version of it. But I think that the other portion, we've heard that from a lot of people, and I don't, in certain places, villages per se, I think in the village of Red Hook, they went through an attempt to get a sewer district a few years back. It was going to be the village of Red Hook and the town of Red Hook, and that effort failed partially because of the way their vote was constructed and the way that their plan was designed. But then I think what's happened is they've gone back to the drawing board, and now the village is building a sewer system, I believe, and in that instance, they don't necessarily have to put it out to a vote for the people because it's going to benefit the village. Village law is different from town law. So, good point, Richard. I wish we could. Hi.
You began your lecture talking about the wonderful sidewalk program that you've done, and it is beautiful on Route 9 and down by Market Street. I have a question that's bothered me for years. I live on Pine Woods Road, and I know that you're going to pave only through Joanne, really, near the park, go around that corner and pave there. But I've lived there 35 years, and it's not been paved in all the years I've lived there, and there's no sidewalk. And so many people from down by Stewart's walk past my house to get ice cream with, I know this is not, maybe this isn't the appropriate place, and I should have come to a town meeting sometime, but you're here, and I'm asking.
Sure.
Is there any long-range plans? I talked to the new town building person about a year or two ago, and he said he didn't have the money in the year, but he's thinking about paving or setting aside the money.
Yeah.
That's a first step, and I know it's difficult, but to put a sidewalk, and I don't know how,
Well,
but
I think I forgot to mention, we did build the sidewalk, again, with CDBG monies, that goes from Route 9 up to Pine Woods Park.
right, it's the park down to the end where it meets Market Street, somewhere.
Oh, you mean up, yes,
Yes,
yeah,
because
yes.
people walk with
I
ice
know.
cream from the apartments down the
I
other end.
know, I
And I've had
see
2
them.
people killed in front of my house
Oh, my
and many
God.
accidents. It's
Yeah.
just a busy road.
It is a
When we
busy
moved
road.
in, it was a country road,
Right.
and now it's across. So I'm just asking, I would like it to be considered about changing that road to make it walkable and usable for walkers.
I think that's a great point, and I travel that road, and actually that's one of the things that inspired me to get involved, is because the Pine Woods intersection, it's an embarrassment for our town to have one of your major east-west, we have 3, right? We have Market Street, Pine Woods, and St. Andrews, and to have Pine Woods Road look like that, it's ridiculous. It's hard.
Aileen?
But
I asked Howie, why don't you, if you when you repave, either put a line down the center or a line on either side?
Yeah, yeah.
And he told me that if he does that to Pine Woods Road, it being a town road, he has to do it to all the town roads.
But I agree that we need to have that repaved. I've asked every year since I've been in office to repave Pine Woods Road. And so Howie has talked to me that the plan is, as part of our sidewalk improvement on 9, we're actually not doing the Pine Woods intersection because DOT has promised since 2006 that they were going to improve that intersection. since 2006. So now they've told me in 2020 they're doing the intersection. And we asked them though, we said, we're going to be doing this whole project. It would be so much better if you could give us the money you're going to spend on the Pine Woods intersection. Give it to us. Let us do the intersection. And they said that they'll think about it. That absolutely, the intersection needs major improvement. We need to pave that road. Creating the sidewalks all the way out to 9G would be a dream. I'd love to see that done. It would have to be done with these CDBG monies, and maybe we can do it in steps. But we did get the first step in right now to get to the park, where at least people can go from the dense neighborhood and get there. But that's a good question. Sure, Patsy.
My question is an old one.
I know what it is. Sidewalks.
Dave knows what it is, and Aileen knows what it is.
Yeah, sidewalks on Main Street, right?
Well, I have lived on Main Street since I was born, and that was in 1940. You used to be able to walk all the way around the block on the sidewalk. There are some property owners that have taken over the sidewalk. They put the grass seed there, and if you come from the town hall and go down Main Street, you have to go out into the street. There's 2 houses. The grass goes right across. And you go down to Park Place and turn the corner. There was a sidewalk there that went north on Park Place, and that's gone completely on the right-hand side of the road. Then you turn on West Market Street, and several of the property owners have taken over the sidewalk. So what I'd like to know is, would somebody look for a grant of some sort? We're in the historic district of the village, and you can't even walk around the block on a sidewalk. And I know you've heard this from me several times, and it gets absolutely nowhere. So I just felt I just needed to tell you again.
I understand, Patsy. There's a lot of work to do in town, and we have really been focusing on providing sidewalks that were safety issues. And I hear you. I mean, it's our heritage. It's one of the most charming parts of our town. So, I mean, it's on the list. It'll be on the CDBG list. And, we have been attacking the areas that we think are the most safety issues and the most visible. Yeah. Sure. So unless there are a couple other things, actually, I forgot to mention, and then I have a couple other, someone I'd like to introduce, our new town board member, but just a couple other things that we've been working on that I know will be of interest to you. That if anyone has followed the New Guinea community that existed at Hackett Hill, our town historian has been working with the Dutchess County Historical Society to address that the remains from that original dig. It was in 2002, there was a grant awarded to the Dutchess County Historical Society to do a dig of this New Guinea community that existed at Hackett Hill. And so they've taken the artifacts by Dr. Linder, his name was, from Bard College, and they are attempting to archive them, and our town historian recently wrote a grant, so we'll get this marker to let people know that we have this New Guinea community here. So that was of interest. And I just wanted to mention another project that we did is our new website. That's the www.hydeparkny.us. And Neil Krupnick, who is our new town board member, and I'm going to introduce introduce him in a minute, I promise. He's our new webmaster, and he and his wife really helped us get that off the ground. So, that's a great link for the business community or for any of you who have events. We also have a Facebook page that we like to post all the things that are going on in town. And, we did pass a few laws recently that are of particular interest, I think, to many of you, where we have a new grass maintenance law that enables us to go after the persistent violators of maintaining their properties. And so we've used that a number of times to go in and mow people's lawns, and then we charge back that cost to them on their taxes. And it's not like we're a lawn service. We have to go through this whole process every time, and there's a fee. So it's a little bit onerous. We want to provide a disincentive for people not to mow their lawns, but that's been something that's been in the works, and Dave Ray has worked very hard on a number of property maintenance problems, which is something that it's a persistent problem in our town, just like it is in others. And
it's nice, Aileen, if you go on there, they see other problems, they can get a hold of Rich and he can go in there.
Yeah, and when we first started, we didn't have an inspector, so we've added a fire inspector. Really, this is a big focus for us, is trying to improve overall property maintenance and code enforcement. So that's been working pretty well. Not to say that we don't have other issues, but so with that, I'd like to introduce our new town board member. And Neil, would you come on up? So. Many of you might have known Emily Svensson, who was our Ward 1 person, and she recently retired from the town board because she had, during the entire period she was a town board member, was in law school, and she was just admitted.
Raising 2 children.
And raising 2 boys and working so hard for the town, and she was just admitted to the bar. So we have a wonderful transition, though, because we have Neil Krupnick, who has been a great volunteer. He's been on the ZBA. He's worked tirelessly to get our new website up and running, and is our webmaster. So everyone, Neil Krupnick, he is Ward 1 representative. So that's it, yeah.
If you're from Ward 1, come up to me, tell me what you want, and
and he'll figure out how
it's really easy to get things done.
Yes, and really easy to get everybody wants.
Yes.
Yes,
So you
good.
can see how hard this person works.
Yeah, we work hard, and it's been it's really is an honor for me to serve my hometown. And I know so many people, and it's really it's a great thing to be able to do good work and to have such great support and so many people who care about our town. And the most important thing is we're getting stuff done, and that's good. So thank you, everyone. Okay.